The jury's returned. The evidence is clear. The verdict is in. There's a great deal of research, real research about how we learn to read. Not all literacy curriculums are created equal. And sadly, many Ohio students do not have access to the most effective reading curriculum. So in our budget, we're making sure that all Ohio children have access to curriculum that is aligned with the evidence-based approaches of the science of reading.
I've always been fascinated by Ohio because when they play football, Ohio State has that little guy jump out there and go to dot the I in Ohio, and I always wondered about that. I was like, I want to see that place, and he's just so proud. Well, I'm here because of curiosity for that, but then also I want to know if we're also as proud of our students in providing them the opportunities that they need. We need to dot that I. Yes, we have to be accountable, and we have to allow for grace. It's not that we deserve it, but all stakeholders have something to do with this. Grace says, okay, we're gonna let that go anyhow. We're gonna move forward because we love our kids.
There is still a role for parents to play an ongoing role, standing shoulder to shoulder with the district, because if you wanna know if the science of reading is being implemented, it's our children in the classrooms. It's our families who are suffering when they don't learn to read.
We changed over. School made a decision to change over to the science of reading. Some teachers said, look, I was reluctant to do it. I was skeptical. But then they all said, as soon as we changed over, even before we started doing tests, we could tell there was a difference. And these teachers...
I love the fact that, the governor has really led the charge on this and has said from a policy perspective, we're gonna get this right. So I had to come, and I wanted to, show the movie is supposed to start a conversation about what needs to happen and why. But people of goodwill can take it from there if we just stick to what works. So some people might say science of reading, others say evidence-based practices, which just means let's do the things that has evidence of working.
All right, friends, thumbs up if you agree with Jemima that we spell MAD, M-A-D, MAD. Good job. What if I want to take this word and I want to make the word made? What do I need to do, Swandi? Can you come up and add our E for us?
Learning to read is science. We used to say it's really not science. It is science. Most of us don't understand the reading process and how the brain works to read. That we actually do look at each letter when we're reading a word and we're beginning to learn to read. And that's important to know because that helps us know how to instruct students. We know what works, and it's just a matter of making sure that when we have those curricula, that we consider the needs of all of the kids that are in the classroom and provide for those students, because we really should be getting at least 80 to 85% of our students progressing at grade level with our good Tier 1 instruction.
Upset, 2 closed syllables, excellent job. WH, when. WH is a digraph. You marked it. 2 sounds, 2 letters, 1 sound, 1 line. His, lawn mower. There's our new vowel teams marked with a D. And broke. That's a review. V-E. I have a silent E at the end. My BR is a blend. Very good. Nice job.
So I've been teaching for 19 years now, and we first started teaching, you taught by level 1, level 2, level 3, and you really just taught students that letters have sounds, and you put the sounds together to make a word. And through the years, you always had a struggling reader who you could show them the word multiple times, they just couldn't get it. Their sounds they were using and confusing. So I haven't always used science of reading. As science of reading came into play, I was really interested in how can I help the kids that really struggle. The science of reading really taught me how to teach them and understand like that they are using a different part of their brain. So their brain is functioning differently than mine, differently than other students in my class. So what can I do to help them have the same understanding or help them understand in a way that they can then read?
Okay, let's start with August. This is the month of the year, so it has a...
Coden, you're gonna start us off today. That was perfect because Brooklyn just ended. Everybody's gonna mark this first word.
I work with students that are in, we call tier 3 in our MTSS model. I work with the kids that need the most intervention. So we need more intensive intervention to try to get those gaps closed.
The E, this is not the word that I'm going to need, right? So I'm gonna add the E to the same box. Why would I put the E in the same box? Because it doesn't make its own sound, so it can't get its own sound box.
So my students would probably be sitting in the classroom struggling, not getting the support that they need, not getting the gaps closed that they need, because it is really difficult. Definitely no student is left behind in this model. The science of reading gives every kid the opportunity to learn how to read. It is multisensory. It uses so many really great strategies to continue to help these kids grow as readers.
Our reading, we want to make sure that we're able to go back and forth between those long and short vowels.
I would say the purpose of the science of reading is to make sure that we are providing every opportunity for a student to learn how to read. The reason that it's so important to use a high quality instructional material, no matter what that is that it builds in an equity piece for our students. By using that specific, explicit, systematic instruction, we should be able to reach most students so that they can read at grade level.
First of all, this isn't just a civil rights issue. This is a human rights issue. The right to know is sacred. This touches every sector of society, including our mental health, our economic health. So this is an important civil right because it's the gateway to all these other rights, not just for the students, but for their families and for the communities and really for the state, because for the state to be what it needs to be, to make sure it's economically developed and the workforce is there and we're attracting businesses and the students are able to solve some of the pressing issues in the state, they have to be literate.
Well, I think success is where every classroom in the state, that every child is being taught based upon what we know works and what works the best, and that is the science of reading. But again, I like to look at things when we're talking about public policy and we're talking about kids. I try to look at it if that was my child or that was my grandchild in that classroom, and I knew they were not using the best way to teach reading, and maybe my grandchild is struggling, that's not acceptable. So I think we have to look at all of these kids. We need to look at them as our kids, and when we look at them as our kids, what we will do is pretty darn clear what we're going to do. There has to be this sense of urgency.
Illiteracy is a solvable issue. It's a difficult one. It's a big challenge, but we actually have the answers. That's what makes it solvable. We don't have to guess. The attention to detail, that's what I love. And teaching reading is like that. All this stuff is going on, but we're focusing on the specific things that are going to drive improvement. It could be a little detail, but we're dotting those I's. We're crossing those T's. We're learning phonemic awareness. We're doing phonics. We're improving our fluency. We're looking at curriculum. These are details. These are little I's that are dotted all over the place to build a reading program that's going to move our kids forward.